cop mocks black woman at scene. 2 minutes later, he's the one in handcuffs. Ma'am, either you step out or I drag you out. Officer Travis Boone's voice sliced through the darkness, laced with arrogance and something colder. Contempt. His flashlight glared into Maya Henderson's face as if trying to erase her identity, reduce her to just another profile he could control. Maya didn't flinch. Her hands remained calmly on the steering wheel, visible, steady. And I'm telling you one last time, Officer Boone, you're making a mistake. He scoffed, weapon now resting lazily on his hip, thumb hovering just over the holster. Mistake is thinking a badge on paper means you get to mouth off. Outside now. Behind him, the red and blue sirens bounced off the wet asphalt. A second cruiser idled nearby. Boone didn't even glance back. He was too busy smirking at the woman who wasn't afraid of him, who dared speak to him like an equal. He didn't know he had just lit the fuse. Exactly 2 minutes later, Officer Boone would be on his knees in handcuffs, blinking into the same headlights he once owned. And he still wouldn't understand how it happened so fast. Rewind. It was a little after 11:30 p.m. when Maya left the Northern Cyber Intelligence Division in Richmond. The rain had stopped, but the road still shimmered under streetlights. Her black Acura glided down Route 17, quiet as a whisper. To anyone looking, she was just another woman heading home late, tired, focused, invisible. But Maya Henderson was anything but invisible. She was deputy director of one of the most classified divisions in the FBI. And tonight she was driving without escort, without warning, and without telling a soul, because she was testing a theory. The past year, her division had compiled disturbing patterns. Internal complaints from drivers stopped under mysterious pretenses, mostly people of color. The body cams had often been conveniently off. The reports were vague, redundant, even contradictory. So tonight she ditched the government plates, dressed down in jeans and a hoodie, and took the highway back roads home. It didn't take long. The cruiser behind her appeared like a shadow out of nowhere. No lights, no sirens at first, just steady pressure. She checked her speed, 55 on the dot. No swerving, no broken tail light, nothing. Then the lights lit up. She exhaled slowly and pulled over. She didn't panic. Maya had spent over 20 years in federal service. She trained officers, reviewed tactical response plans, sat across from senators. But none of that mattered now. The driver's side door behind her opened with a slow creak. The officer approached with the casual gait of a man who thought he was in charge before the conversation even began. White male, late 30s, uniform unbuttoned just enough to break code. Chewing gum. His name tag read, Boone. He tapped on her window, loud and curt. Maya rolled it halfway down, hands still on the wheel. "Evening, officer," he gave a dry laugh. "License and registration." "No explanation." "I don't need one," he replied. She narrowed her eyes. "You do, actually. Virginia Code 19.2 to 83.3, Section B, requires a reason for a traffic stop." He leaned closer. "You quoting law to me now? What are you, a lawyer?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached, slowly, for her credentials. She pulled out her driver's license and a leather badge holder, flipped it open. FBI, full credentials, ID clearance. He stared at it, blinked, then burst out laughing. "You people will say anything to get out of a ticket." "You people?" she asked, voice sharp but contained. He grinned. "Yeah. You people with fake badges and big mouths?" She didn't respond, just watched him, calm, controlled. He didn't like that. Suddenly his hand slammed against the roof of her car. The sound cracked the night open like thunder. Maya tensed but didn't move. "I said step out. I won't ask again." You haven't explained your reason for stopping me. That's unlawful detainment, she said, her voice flat. His gun hand twitched. That's when the second cruiser pulled up. Officer Klein, bigger, broader, less mouth, more muscle. He said nothing, just walked over and stood behind Boone like a guard dog waiting for a nod. You gonna step out? Boone asked again. I've shown you federal identification. You're now in direct violation of— Oh my God, Boone groaned, stepping back, arms flailing sarcastically. Another one who thinks flashing some federal ID gives her a get-out-of-jail-free card. He turned to Klein. She thinks she's FBI. I am FBI, Maya said sharply. Then the moment cracked. From behind the cruisers, a voice rang out, loud and firm. I'm recording this. Don't touch her. Boone spun. His hand reached for his holster. A man stood on the shoulder of the road, phone held high, filming steadily. He was young, mid-20s, hoodie, calm. Zayden Clark. She showed you a federal badge, he said. I got it all. Don't test me. Klein froze. Boone didn't, but he hesitated, just long enough. Maya used that moment. She stepped out slowly, her presence towering despite her smaller frame. Officer Boone, she said clearly, holster your weapon, now. You're giving me orders now? I am. Deputy Director Maya Henderson, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And if you don't lower that weapon, you're about to be detained by your own department. Boone laughed once, then paused, because he heard it too. Sirens, not his own, approaching fast. 2 more cruisers pulled up, tires screeching against asphalt. The responding officers stepped out, eyes wide. One of them shouted, Boone, drop the weapon. What? Boone turned, confused. She's a suspect. She's your superior, you idiot, the sergeant snapped. Drop it. Boone stood stunned, lips parted, and then his arms were behind his back, twisted into cuffs. He screamed, This is a setup. She faked it. She's not. She's your boss, the sergeant said, pressing him against the hood. And you're finished. Maya stood still. Zayden kept filming. The rain started again, just a whisper at first. But for Boone it must have felt like thunder. He looked up at Maya, eyes pleading now. I didn't know, I swear. If I had known. Her voice cut through him like steel. That's the problem, Officer Boone. You didn't ask, you just assumed. And now you answer for it. Zayden lowered his phone slowly. You good, ma'am? Maya finally turned to him, exhaled. Thanks to you. You saved yourself, he said. I just made sure the world saw it. The cruiser's lights bathed the scene in surreal color. Maya's hoodie was soaked. Boone was silent now, cuffed, shaking. And that, as far as the timeline went, was the end of his career, and the beginning of something much, much bigger. Boone sat in the back of the patrol car, head tilted down, wrists cuffed behind him, still panting like a man who'd run full speed into a wall he never saw coming. The flash of recognition hadn't hit him until after the cuffs clicked. Even now he looked less afraid and more confused, like the world had cheated him somehow. Across the road, Deputy Director Maya Henderson stood beneath the dim glow of the streetlights, soaked to the bone, but her spine held straight like steel. The adrenaline hadn't worn off, not even close. Her heart was a ticking drum, each beat syncing with the images replaying in her head. The hand on the roof, the sneer, the mocking disbelief. The gun. Zayden Clark leaned against his car, still clutching his phone like it was a lifeline. He didn't look like a hero. He looked shaken, unsure, 1 foot in flight mode. His voice, which had cut through the chaos like a blade minutes ago, was quiet now. You sure you're okay? Maya nodded once, lips pressed tight. I'm standing. That's enough for now. Two state officers hovered nearby, murmuring into radios, glancing back at Boone as if still not believing what had unfolded. One of them, Sergeant Hale, approached cautiously. "Deputy Director Henderson, Internal Affairs has been notified. A transport team's en route. We'll take it from here unless you want to remain involved." "I'm involved," Maya said flatly. "I need all cruiser dash cam and body cam footage preserved, immediately, and I want that backup officer's report filed within the hour." Hale nodded, then lowered his voice. "Just so you know, his body cam wasn't active." "Convenient," she muttered. "And his partner?" "We're checking now, but the cruiser's dash cam might have caught the entire thing." Maya's jaw tensed. "Make sure it doesn't disappear." Zayden stepped forward hesitantly. "I've got the full clip on my phone. From the moment he slammed her roof to when he got cuffed, I can send it." Maya turned to him, softer now. "What's your name?" "Zayden Clark. I'm a student at Virginia Commonwealth University. I was heading home from a tutoring shift. I wasn't trying to get involved. I just couldn't drive past." "You did more than most would," she said, voice firm with gratitude. "But I need that footage in secure hands. Don't post it online just yet." "I wasn't going to. I figured someone would try to twist it." "You're not wrong," she said. A black SUV approached from down the road, unmarked but official. It rolled to a stop behind the cruisers. Maya didn't need to see the plates to know who it was. Special Agent Jordan Reese stepped out, shoulders squared, hand on his earpiece. "Ma'am, you all right?" "I'm fine. Who called you?" "Justice Department," Reese said. "News is moving faster than we are." Maya's brow furrowed. "I didn't notify them." "You didn't have to. Someone from the precinct leaked the call-in. Might have thought they could spin it in Boone's favor. Didn't realize who they were dealing with." Boone, still in the car, shouted from the back seat, "I didn't know. She didn't look like anybody important." Maya's head turned sharply. "That's the point, officer. You shouldn't need a title to treat someone with basic human decency." Boone kept yelling, but Hale ordered the patrol car door shut. The metal clunk echoed louder than it should have. Reese stepped closer. "We've got a bigger issue. Boone's unit? They've had multiple complaints in the past 2 years, most of them mysteriously closed. There's a pattern here." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Who closed them?" "That's what we're looking into. But guess who shows up on every internal summary report?" She didn't respond. She already knew. "Captain Dean Wexler," Reese confirmed. "Head of Precinct 27, Boone's mentor." "I want Wexler's full personnel record," Maya said. "Every complaint, every incident he touched. If he's been burying misconduct, we're not just talking about one rogue officer. This could be a network." Reese hesitated. "That might kick up some serious pushback." "Good," Maya said coldly. "Let them push." Zayden stood awkwardly at the edge of the scene. "So, what happens now?" "You go home. Stay off social media for now. I'll have a protective detail sent to your apartment until we sort this out." He blinked. "Wait, I'm not in trouble, right? I didn't do anything wrong." "No," Maya said. "You did everything right. Which is exactly why they'll want to silence you." He didn't answer, just nodded and stepped away, fingers tight around his phone. Maya's eyes followed him as he disappeared into the shadows. This was bigger than a single traffic stop. She knew that now. No, she'd suspected it for months, but tonight confirmed it. There was a system in place, trained, protected, and designed to intimidate. And Officer Travis Boone was just one face in the crowd. Wexler was behind the curtain, and Maya was done waiting for permission to pull it down. Back at headquarters, hours later, the halls were quiet. Maya entered the Situation Room where Agent Reese, Agent Kira Brooks, and data analyst Theo Mercer were already waiting. The walls were covered in digital profiles, complaint logs, video feeds, and incident maps. "Boone's been booked," Kira said, "but he's already requested union representation and is claiming confusion, saying he feared for his safety." Maya laughed dryly. "Of course he did. A black woman, alone at night, quoting legal codes, absolutely terrifying." Theo looked up from his laptop. "I started pulling older records from his unit. Several reports mention undocumented detainments, mostly teenagers, all boys, all black or Latino." "Same patterns," Maya muttered. Reese nodded. "And here's the kicker. Most of the dismissed reports came through Wexler's office. The redactions are heavy, but if we dig deeper—" "We don't dig," Maya said. "We go in." Reese raised an eyebrow. "You mean, I want a sealed federal inquiry into Wexler's entire precinct. I'll get DOJ on the phone myself." Theo leaned back. "And the footage?" "Preserved. But there's something else," Kira added. "We ran a sweep on Boone's body cam. It was disabled manually, not malfunctioned. He turned it off 5 minutes before the stop." "That's premeditated," Maya said. "He wasn't just reacting. He was hunting." The room went still. No one said it aloud, but the implication hung heavy. Boone wasn't just having a bad night. He'd done this before, and someone had made sure it never saw the light of day. Maya looked at the board of names and badge numbers, her jaw set. Tonight they had footage. They had a witness. They had a badge. But what about all the nights no one had a phone? What about the ones who didn't have a badge to flash? She grabbed a marker and circled Wexler's name. "This stops now." The storm didn't roll in with thunder or rain. It came quietly, inside a beige-walled conference room at the Richmond FBI field office. Deputy Director Maya Henderson stood before a digital wall lit with files, mugshots, internal memos, and timestamps. Every thread pointed in one direction. Precinct 27, Captain Dean Wexler, and a growing pile of ghosts. Unanswered complaints, redacted incident reports, and cases that seemed to vanish into thin air. Behind her, Agents Reese and Kira sat tensely at the edge of the conference table, eyes fixed on the grainy surveillance footage playing on the central screen. "Stop right there," Maya said. The feed paused, showing Boone's cruiser pulling into a gas station nearly 20 minutes before his encounter with Maya. "Zoom in," she said. "Enhance that rear corner." Theo, the tech analyst, tapped the keyboard. The frame sharpened. A second man appeared, speaking to Boone near the gas pump, face obscured by a ball cap. "Who's that?" Kira asked. "Still running facial rec," Theo said. "But based on height and build, I'd bet money that's Wexler." Maya folded her arms. "Wexler was off-duty that night." "Exactly," Reese muttered. "So what the hell was he doing briefing Boone at a gas station 30 minutes before an illegal stop?" Kira leaned forward. "What if the stop wasn't spontaneous? What if Boone was following a playbook?" Maya didn't speak, but her jaw tensed. Her instincts were screaming now, not from paranoia, but pattern recognition. There were too many coincidences, too many holes filled with silence. She turned back to the screen. "Pull the cruiser GPS logs. I want Boone's full route for the past 72 hours, and get me every dash cam from Precinct 27 over the last 3 months. I don't care how buried it is." Reese hesitated. "You know that's going to trigger alarms. Wexler's going to know you're coming." "I want him to," Maya said. "Let him squirm." Down the hall, Zayden Clark sat in a smaller debrief room, bouncing his leg under the table. His hoodie was gone, replaced by a pressed collared shirt and borrowed blazer. He looked older already, tired. Across from him, a young agent named Brielle walked him through a witness protection protocol. "They might contact you, try to intimidate you," she said. "You need to report everything. Calls, messages, Anyone showing up near your apartment. Don't downplay anything. Zayden nodded, eyes glazed. I didn't think it'd get this crazy. I just pulled over. I just filmed. And that footage might change everything, Brielle said gently. That's why it matters. Why you matter. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Outside, Maya stood by the one-way mirror watching. When the door opened behind her, she didn't turn. Director, Reese said, we've got something. They moved quickly to the main hub. On one of the side monitors, a video feed played. A teenage boy, handcuffed, face bruised, being led into a Precinct 27 cruiser. No timestamp. No matching report in the system. No arrest filed. Theo shook his head. We cross-checked every detention log. This kid, no name, no record, no case file. He just disappeared. Kira added, and he's not the only one. There's a cluster of similar videos, same pattern. Mostly boys, ages 14 to 18. All non-white, none ever booked, none ever released. Just gone. Reese looked at Maya. What the hell are they doing in that precinct? Maya's voice was quiet, but there was no mistaking the edge beneath it. Something systemic and coordinated. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A restricted number. She answered without hesitation. Henderson. A low, distorted voice answered. If you want the truth, check the 3rd floor of the old juvenile center on West Braxton. Room 314. Then the line went dead. Kira looked up. You think it's legit? I think whoever made that call doesn't trust the chain of command, which means we follow it. 2 hours later, Maya, Reese, and Kira stood outside a boarded-up building hidden behind a rusted fence. The old Braxton Hill Juvenile Center had been shuttered for nearly 5 years, officially condemned. But the locks were new, too new. They broke the latch and pushed inside. The air reeked of mold and stale paper. Their flashlights sliced through the dust, revealing decades of forgotten furniture and peeling posters of long, irrelevant slogans like, Second Chances Start Here. Room 314 was tucked at the far end of a corridor lined with broken windows. Inside, dozens of storage boxes sat stacked and undisturbed. Maya popped the first lid. Files, intake forms, names, ages, dates. But no release papers. Reese rifled through one. These are all minors. Kira pulled a photograph from a file. This one says the kid was transferred, but there's no destination. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she picked up another folder. The name at the top, Jalen Reyes, arrested at 16. No booking number, no court appearance, just a signed intake by one name. Officer Travis Boone. This is what they were hiding, she whispered. They weren't just roughing kids up. They were erasing them. Kira stared at the boxes. How deep do you think this goes? Maya didn't answer at first. Then, far enough that we're going to need federal indictments. And fast. Back at HQ, they laid out the documents across the operations room table like a grim jigsaw puzzle. The pattern was undeniable. Every incident linked to Boone had a gap. Every gap circled back to Wexler. And every missing name told the same story. Someone was rounding up kids, funneling them through the system, and making them disappear. Maya stood in silence, the weight of the discovery crashing down like bricks. This wasn't about a mockery on the side of the road anymore. This was organized corruption. And the ghosts in those files deserved justice, and she intended to deliver it. With names, with proof, and with no one left to hide behind a badge. Captain Dean Wexler slammed the folder shut so hard the sound echoed across his office like a warning shot. His jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the grainy printed images scattered across his desk, screenshots from body cam leaks, arrest files flagged for inconsistencies, and one particularly damning still. Boone talking to him at the gas station the night he pulled over Maya Henderson. He muttered to himself, "She was supposed to be a nobody." Across the room, Officer Peter Klein stood stiff, arms crossed. She wasn't even supposed to be out there alone. What the hell was she doing without a detail? Wexler looked up, voice cold. "She was baiting us. You don't see that? I see that Boone's in lockup and the feds are crawling up our backs." Wexler exhaled through his nose, grabbed a burner phone from his desk drawer, and dialed. "It's me," he said. "We need to accelerate the cleanup. Henderson's not letting this go quietly." He paused, listening. "I don't care what strings you have to pull. Make it look like overreach. Discredit her. And get rid of that footage." When he hung up, he looked at Klein. "This goes sideways. You never saw me. Got it?" Klein nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. Meanwhile, back at the FBI field office, Maya stood in front of the large glass board, now covered in pins and red string that would have looked like conspiracy theory, if not for the stack of evidence building every hour. Zayden Clark sat at a side desk, nervously refreshing his phone every few seconds. He hadn't gone home since the night of the stop. Not because he didn't want to, because he didn't feel safe. "They slashed my tires," he said quietly, eyes still on the screen. Maya looked over from her files. "What?" "This morning, outside my apartment. No note, no message, just 4 flat tires and a cracked windshield." Reese cursed under his breath. "They're sending a message." Maya nodded slowly. "Let's send one back." Kira walked in with a USB drive. "We got it. The missing dash cam footage." Theo popped it into the screen. The footage flickered to life, grainy but clear. It showed Boone driving in silence. Then, 20 minutes before the stop, he pulled into the gas station. Wexler appeared beside the cruiser. They didn't shake hands. No pleasantries. Just a small black device passed from Wexler's jacket to Boone's hand. Maya narrowed her eyes. "Zoom in," she said. Theo paused the footage, enlarged the device. "That's not a phone," Reese said. "Looks like a signal disruptor." Maya's voice turned sharp. "A jammer." Kira nodded. "That's why your in-car recorder failed. They shut it down before the stop." Reese looked stunned. "That means they didn't just follow you. They prepared for it." Maya turned to him, her voice flat. "They weren't pulling over a stranger. They were trying to disappear me." A long silence followed. The weight of that reality was heavy in the room. Then Maya spoke again. "Okay, they want to play that way. Let's give them something they can't bury." She picked up the phone and dialed the U.S. Attorney's office. "I need to schedule a meeting." "Yes, urgent. Tell them it's about internal corruption involving Precinct 27, illegal detainments of minors, and federal tampering." While the team prepped files for transport, Zayden stood awkwardly by the door. "You think they'll come after me again?" Maya walked over, calm but serious. "They're not afraid of you, Zayden. They're afraid of what you made visible. That's why they're trying to erase you." He nodded, eyes heavy with the pressure no young man should have to carry. "I just didn't want to feel powerless." She looked him square in the eye. "Then don't. Stand beside me when I present this. Be visible, loud, unafraid." The next morning, the conference room at the U.S. Attorney's office was cold and full. Maya sat at the center of a long table. On one side, Assistant U.S. Attorney Miriam Price and 2 investigators. On the other, Maya's team, and Zayden, freshly dressed and alert, gripping his backpack like a lifeline. Maya presented the case in full. Photos, redacted forms, missing reports, the footage, the files from Braxton Hill, Boone, Wexler, Klein, all of it. Price listened carefully, then leaned back. This is massive, she said. You're talking about corruption, conspiracy, child endangerment, and evidence tampering across multiple agencies. Maya didn't blink. I'm not talking, I'm proving. Price nodded slowly. Then we open a federal probe, full subpoena power. Internal Affairs will be brought in. Maya stopped her. Number not Internal Affairs. They're compromised. We handle this under federal oversight. Direct DOJ scrutiny. Price raised an eyebrow. You expect pushback. I expect war, Maya said, voice low. But I'm not backing down. Not when I've already seen what happens when no one looks. After the meeting, as they walked to the elevator, Zayden finally asked the question he'd been holding in his chest since the beginning. Why didn't you just use your power that night, flash the badge and shut it down from the start? Maya looked at him, eyes steady. Because sometimes the only way to expose the system is to let it try to swallow you whole, and then break it from the inside. He was quiet for a beat, then said, I think you just made a believer out of me. She gave him the faintest smile. That's the goal. As the elevator doors slid shut, Maya knew things were about to get louder, uglier, and more dangerous. But the silence was already broken, and that meant they were finally getting somewhere. Captain Dean Wexler wasn't sleeping. He hadn't for 2 days. He sat in the back office of a small bar on the edge of Chesterfield County, where the regulars didn't ask questions and the cameras were permanently down. He poured a finger of cheap bourbon into a chipped glass, hands trembling only slightly. The TV on the wall played muted news loops, each one with a headline that made his stomach turn. Deputy Director Maya Henderson calls for federal oversight of local precinct. Leaked footage suggests coordinated misconduct in Precinct 27. He threw the remote across the room. In his other hand, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He ignored it. Then again. This time he answered. You're running out of time, said a voice. Flat. Director. Who is this? Wexler snapped. Someone who once protected you. That protection is over. You brought this heat on yourself. You think she can win? She already is. And she's not alone. The line went dead. Wexler stood, shoved the bourbon glass off the table, and stormed out the back door into the cold air. His world, once comfortably hidden in gray areas, was collapsing into black and white. And Maya Henderson was standing dead center in the light. Back at the FBI field office, Maya watched as dozens of files uploaded onto encrypted servers, building a case so airtight even the Justice Department couldn't look away. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. She needed a smoking gun, something the system couldn't shrug off or bury with PR spin. Theo entered the room, carrying a thick folder marked Unconfirmed. This came from an internal contact in juvenile services, he said, laying it out in front of Maya. It's a list of minors transferred through Braxton Hill in the last 5 years. Most of them never showed up at their supposed destination facilities. Maya flipped through the names, her fingers slowing at one. Jalen Reyes. She tapped the page. This kid, he was in one of the intake photos we pulled from room 314. There's no record of his release, but there is a transfer logged, signed by Wexler himself. Theo nodded. And the transfer destination? A facility that shut down 6 months prior. Fake paper trail, Maya said, her voice tightening. He vanished. Kira walked in, phone to her ear. You're gonna want to hear this. She put the call on speaker. A voice came through, shaky but clear. My name is Hugo Bell. I used to work at Braxton Hill, maintenance staff. They told us not to ask questions, but I saw things. Kids moved out in the middle of the night. No paperwork, no guards. Just unmarked vans. I quit when one of them screamed for help and no one did a damn thing. Did you ever report this? Maya asked. To who? You think they were gonna protect me? They buried everything. But now I see what you're doing. And I found something. A video. I copied it years ago. I didn't know what to do with it. But you will. An hour later, Maya, Reese, and Kira sat in stunned silence watching the footage. The timestamp was 2 years ago. The location matched the interior of Braxton Hill. A group of teenagers sat on a bench, cuffed, silent, faces empty. A voice, Wexler's, called out names. One by one, the boys stood and were led through a door. The video ended before they returned. Only there were no return logs, because they never came back. Maya's face hardened. We just crossed the line from misconduct to human trafficking. Reese leaned back in his chair, voice grim. We've got enough to take down half the precinct. No, Maya said. Not enough. We need one of those boys, Theo burst in, breathless. You might have him. I got a hit. He tossed a file onto the table, a shelter report from Delaware. Name, Jordan Bell, age 17. Walk-in intake, no parents, but look at this photo. He clicked on a side-by-side. Jordan Bell and the missing Jalen Reyes. Same face, same scar on the chin. Survivor, Kira whispered. Maya grabbed her coat. Let's bring him home. Hours later, in a quiet back room of the shelter, Maya sat across from Jalen, now going by Jordan, who looked at her with the guarded eyes of someone who didn't believe in rescue. You're not here to arrest me? He asked. No, Maya said. I'm here to listen, and to make sure this never happens again. He said nothing for a while. Then he opened a torn notebook, slid it across the table. Names, dates, places, notes. Every night, every movement. I wrote everything down, he said, in case I ever got out. Maya flipped through the pages. It was all there, all of it. She looked at him, voice quiet. You're not just a witness, you're the key. He didn't smile, but he nodded. As she left the room, her phone buzzed. It was a video link. No sender ID. She pressed play, a hidden camera feed from Wexler's office. He was pacing, shouting, on the phone. They're too close. We need to pull everything, shred it, burn it if we have to. I don't care what it costs. Maya's breath caught. Whoever was feeding her this, they were on the inside, watching, waiting, helping. She closed the phone and turned to Reese. Time to move, she said. Wexler just started his own countdown. The air inside the FBI command center felt charged, like the moment right before a lightning strike. Maps and reports wallpapered the glass boards. Faces stared back at Maya Henderson from manila folders, each one a thread in the same web. Her hands hovered over the table, scanning the names. Jordan Bell's notebook had blown the case wide open. Dozens of boys, all disappeared. All filtered through Braxton Hill, some transported under fake transfer orders, some simply erased. Jordan had listed every name he could remember, and Maya had vowed that not one would be ignored. Wexler's been burning files, Reese said, storming in. The video you got yesterday. Real-time feed from his office, time-stamped. We have evidence destruction. Kira followed, a tablet in her hand. That's not all. We pulled internal movement logs for Precinct 27. Wexler entered the basement archive at 2:43 a.m., left at 4:12. Only person logged. But the surveillance hard drive from that wing? Gone. Maya's face darkened. He's wiping every trace. Reese threw his jacket over the chair. He knows it's coming. Then we don't wait anymore, Maya said. We raid the precinct, tonight. Theo entered, breathless. We have a problem. Everyone turned. I got an alert from our digital forensic system. Someone tried to access your personnel file again, Director. From an external IP routed through an encrypted proxy in, get this, the Internal Affairs Division. Kira blinked. They're trying to erase her. Maya stayed silent, processing. If they had succeeded, Theo continued, and someone ran your badge that night, it would have flagged as invalid. Boone might have actually believed you were faking it. Reese stepped back. They tried to strip your identity. Digitally? No, Maya said. They tried to weaponize doubt against me, against the truth. She turned to the board. Her finger tapped a name that hadn't been mentioned before. IA Division Chief. Walter Griggs Kira raised her head slowly. He's been sitting on all the misconduct files for Wexler's department, including Boone's. He's not just covering it up, Maya said. He's part of it. Reese was already dialing. Let's bring him in. Not yet, Maya said, stopping him. We don't let him know we're coming. We do this clean, quiet, and we get him with his hands on something he can't explain away. Hours later, they parked outside the Precinct 27 compound in an unmarked FBI vehicle. Maya, Reese, and Kira moved fast, slipping in through a maintenance entrance using credentials acquired from an internal contact, one of the few still brave enough to help. The lower archive was cold, silent, and dimly lit. They descended a stairwell, flashlights dancing off concrete walls. This place gives me the creeps, Kira whispered. Exactly why they use it, Maya replied. They turned the corner into a long corridor. Ahead, the door to the archive room was ajar. Inside, Walter Griggs stood alone, feeding folders into an industrial shredder. He didn't even flinch when they entered, just turned slowly, his expression unreadable. I was wondering when you'd show up, he said. Step away from the machine, Maya ordered. Griggs raised his hands, but that same smug calm lingered in his voice. You really think this ends with me? I know it doesn't, Maya said, but it starts here. He looked at her like a teacher correcting a student. You don't know how deep this goes. The people involved? They don't get exposed. They get promoted. Reese moved to cuff him. Not tonight. As Griggs was being led out, he smirked at Maya. You won't survive this, she leaned in. I already have. Later, in the FBI briefing room, the atmosphere was electric. Screens flashed updates in real time. Wexler's phone had been tapped. Dozens of internal emails linked him to at least 6 illegal juvenile transfers. Boone was still in custody and, according to new intel, ready to talk. Maya stood at the center, calm and clear. This is what we're going to do, she said. We lock down Wexler's office. We seize every terminal. We notify the Justice Department of active obstruction, conspiracy, and trafficking. And we move on all known associates within the next 48 hours. What about the Union? Reese asked. They can scream all they want, Maya answered. But if they protect corruption, they become part of it. An agent ran in with a USB drive. Director, new footage just surfaced on a secure Dropbox. Anonymous upload. Looks like Braxton Hill, basement level. Watch this. They played the footage. A hallway, a group of boys, led in single file. No uniforms, no ID tags on the adults. A door opens. They vanish into darkness. The timestamp? 1 week before the facility officially shut down. Kira whispered, My God. They were operating up until the last second, Maya said, and possibly beyond. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous number. She answered, her voice steady. This is Henderson. A distorted voice replied, same as before. If you really want to find the others, look beneath the garage behind Precinct 27, and go tonight. Click. Reese looked at her. This could be a trap. It could, Maya said, pocketing the phone. Or it could be everything. She turned to her team. We don't stop now. We finish this, no matter what's waiting. The air behind Precinct 27 was thicker than night itself. A quiet hum of generators mixed with the low murmur of distant traffic. But it was the silence beneath that set Maya Henderson's nerves on edge. She stood in a maintenance alley, the FBI windbreaker zipped to her throat, eyes locked on the shadowed garage at the far end of the lot. Agent Reese stood to her left, Kira on her right. A tactical team waited in two black SUVs just out of sight. "You sure this is it?" Reese asked quietly. "No," Maya answered. "But if they're moving kids underground, they'd need somewhere off-book, somewhere the system doesn't look." Kira glanced down at the warrant in her hand. "We have legal entry. No red tape this time." Maya stepped forward. "Then let's open it up." The team swept in, fast, silent. Within minutes, the old garage door had been pried open. Inside was dust, rusted shelves, and what looked like a forgotten service bay, until one of the agents tapped a crowbar against the concrete floor. A hollow thud echoed. "Here," he called out. They uncovered a trap door beneath an old tire rack, reinforced with steel but not locked. Maya gave a silent nod, and the team pulled it open. What they found beneath wasn't just incriminating, it was horrifying. A narrow staircase led to a basement-level corridor lined with faded fluorescent lights. Several rooms branched off the hallway. One held rusted bunk beds, another rows of empty lockers. The last had security monitors still powered on, though the feed was static. A coffee cup sat on the console, dustless. Someone had been here recently. "What is this place?" Kira whispered. "A ghost facility," Maya said. "They built a second Braxton Hill under their own building." On the far wall was a whiteboard with a list of first names and dates. Some were crossed out. Others weren't. Kira took photos. Reese rifled through a filing cabinet bolted to the corner. Inside were logs, transport receipts, and several driver IDs, all forged. "This is a trafficking ring disguised as internal transfers," he muttered, and Wexler was the architect. Suddenly, Maya's phone buzzed. It was Theo back at the command center. "You need to get back, now." "What happened?" Maya asked. "Wexler's gone, disappeared an hour ago, but that's not it. Boone's flipped." Reese raised an eyebrow. "What?" Theo's voice came through the speaker. "He's talking. Says Wexler used him for years. Told him which kids to stop, who to intimidate. But the real twist? Wexler didn't act alone. He was getting clearance codes. From Internal Affairs." Maya's blood ran cold. "Griggs." "Not just Griggs," Theo said. "There's another name." Judge Alton Briggs. Kira froze. "The circuit judge?" "The one who signed off on every sealed juvie case that vanished," Theo confirmed. "We cross-referenced. His signature's on more than half the orders we found at Braxton." Reese let out a long breath. "This goes higher than we thought." Maya stared at the names. They weren't just protecting bad cops. They were building a pipeline, from the street to silence. Back at HQ, they regrouped. Boone sat in a secured interrogation room, eyes bloodshot, hands twitching. "I didn't know what it was at first," he said. "Wexler just told me which neighborhoods to patrol harder, which kids looked promising, said they'd be better off in programs." "And when did you realize it wasn't about programs?" Maya asked from across the glass. "The second time a kid never came back," Boone whispered. "No hearing, no record, just gone. That's when I knew." "Why did you keep doing it?" Reese asked. Boone swallowed hard. "Because the first time I spoke up, I got reassigned to desk duty for 3 months. Wexler called it a vacation, said next time it'd be permanent." "You're going to testify," Maya said. "I will," Boone said, "but only if you keep me alive long enough to do it, because if Wexler's running, he's not running alone." Later that evening, Maya stood at a press podium at the Department of Justice. Cameras flashed, reporters buzzed, but she didn't waver. "I was pulled over because someone believed I didn't belong in the car I was driving. When I showed my badge, it didn't protect me. That night was not a mistake. It was a symptom. She paused, scanning the room. We have uncovered a coordinated network involving law enforcement, internal affairs, and the judicial system. Their goal: profit from the detention and disappearance of minors. These were not isolated acts. They were systemic. She looked directly into the camera. No badge will shield those responsible, and no silence will protect them. We are not just bringing justice for those who vanished. We are dismantling the system that let them disappear in the first place. Behind her, Zayden Clark and Jordan Bell stood quietly. Their presence said what words couldn't. The story was no longer about one stop on a quiet road. It was about what happens when people fight back, and what happens when the truth refuses to stay buried. The hearing room on Capitol Hill was packed, wall to wall. Maya Henderson sat behind a long oak table, a small FBI pin on her lapel, and a thick folder of evidence in front of her. Behind her sat Zayden Clark and Jordan Bell, no longer witnesses but warriors. The walls around them were lined with reporters, congressional aides, and public observers, all waiting, watching. Senator Amelia Park leaned forward from the dais, voice sharp but calm. Deputy Director Henderson, are you saying that minors were deliberately removed from the legal system for profit? Maya's voice didn't tremble. Yes. I'm saying the system didn't fail. It functioned exactly as certain individuals designed it to. They built a pipeline fueled by fear, silence, and institutional protection, and it ran directly through courtrooms, police cruisers, and holding cells. Murmurs swept through the chamber. Flashbulbs flickered. But Maya kept speaking. Jordan Bell is alive because someone helped him escape. But the others, many of them, are still missing. Some may never be found. And that blood is not just on the hands of a few corrupt officers. It's on the entire framework that enabled them. Zayden shifted in his seat, hands folded. He wasn't the scared kid who once stood on a roadside shoulder, phone trembling. He sat like someone who understood the weight of his voice now. Later, as they stepped outside into the bright spring air, a reporter called out, "Deputy Director, is the investigation over?" Maya turned, eyes steady. It's just begun." Back at FBI headquarters, a wall of mugshots now decorated the glass in the command center. Dean Wexler had been caught boarding a private plane near Raleigh, wearing a fake ID and carrying $200,000 in cash. Walter Griggs was already in federal custody, facing charges ranging from obstruction to conspiracy. Judge Alton Briggs had been suspended pending criminal indictment after 6 of his closed juvenile cases were reopened and found to contain no due process. But Maya knew this wasn't closure, it was accountability, and those are never the same thing. She walked into her office and found Zayden standing by the window, holding his phone. "They want me to speak at a school in D.C., he said, about civic responsibility." "You should," she replied. "I'm not sure I'm qualified," he laughed nervously. "You stood up when no one else would." "That's the whole job," she said. He looked over at her. "And you?" "What now?" "I keep going," Maya said. "Because if this could happen under our noses, it could happen again, somewhere else, with someone who doesn't have a badge, or a witness, or a voice." She sat at her desk and opened her laptop. There were already 5 new emails flagged, one from a parent in Baltimore, another from a public defender in St. Louis, and a third with an anonymous tip about a closed mental health facility in Georgia. The pattern wasn't over, but the silence was. Later that night, Maya poured herself a cup of coffee and logged onto the FBI public platform. Her team had just released a statement to the press, and the video of her congressional testimony was already spreading. Zayden posted a short clip. her looking directly into the camera and saying, "The system isn't broken, it's being abused, and we're done pretending not to see it." Comments rolled in. "This is what leadership looks like. I used to think nothing could change. I'm not so sure anymore. Protect this woman at all costs." And then, one from a name she didn't recognize. "My brother vanished from juvie in 2018. Now I know where to look. Thank you." Maya stared at the screen, eyes burning. Not from exhaustion, but something deeper. A sense of purpose sharpened by pain, and now backed by truth. She opened a new memo addressed to her team. Subject, next phase message. Stay loud, stay relentless, stay human. She hit send, and as the screen dimmed, a final thought crossed her mind. The war wasn't won, but people were finally fighting back. And that's how revolutions begin. If this story moved you, don't stay silent. Share it, speak it, stand up. Subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful stories that challenge injustice and lift the voices that matter. Because truth doesn't spread itself. Your voice counts. Use it.